if we dance on one or we dance on two, the root is the same. Everything is coming from the same place, from the same cultures. So it's coming from Africa, from France and Spain, because all these nations were together in Cuba. And there's a great documentary that speaks about that in Netflix called Cuba Libre. If you have time to see that documentary, it's about the evolution of Cuba in general. So, when we do the basic on two, normally it's like this. 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, and 7. 1, and 2, and 3, 5, and 6, and 7. When we do the basic on one, is 1, and 3, 5, and 6, and 7. 1, and 3, 5, and 6, and 7. When we do any step that normally people do in salsa, for example, substitute on two would be like a 1, and 3, 5, and 6, and 7, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 5, and 6, and 7. When we do back step, tutun, ipa, tutun, ipa, tutun. When we do swing step, 5, 6, 7, and a 1, 2, mambo 4 and 5 to the right, to boom, ibam, to diagonal, ibim, ibam, ibim, ibam, ibim, ibam, ibim, ibam, ibim, ibam, ibam, ibam. When we do heels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, substitute, tiki, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. When we do all this kind of footwork, are coming from the same root, and of course, for the evolution, about 100 or more than 100 years, dancing and evolving and adding new intentions and new rhythms on the way. Yeah? So to understand all this footwork, and even in Pano, can we quiet in the room, please? Can we just quiet in the room? Thank you. So when we do all this kind of footwork, it doesn't matter if we do it, how can I explain this? The most important thing is to learn the foundation, where the footwork is coming from. Because otherwise there's not going to be foundation in the arms, it's going to be something like this, or it's going to be something like this, and there's going to be like a completely understanding of the movement. So that's why it's very important to understand the roots, which is son cubano, before son cubano, yeah? And also there's another movement in Gaga that is like this, and if you pay attention on this, and also in this, super slow, when they go the diagonals, they do this with the hips, and also, about this movement is the beginning of son cubano too. When we do the hips, is the diagonal is the beginning of cha-cha-cha. But the way to move the hips is exactly the way that people move it in Gaga. After Gaga, we have some other dances like Makuta. After Makuta, we have Yuka. But if you pay attention, it's the connection with the heels, the legs, and also the hips. It's totally connection. And then when we do this in son cubano, it's like this. Hips with heels, with torso. And then they were making this more elegant by the time. And the basic of the waltz too. All these intentions together, we create this. And basic. And it's very important to understand this one, especially the connection with the arms and the legs like this. Because then we have to do the same in partner work, which is like this. You see? So if you watch from this perspective, same basic, and then we just add one turn. This is son cubano, and mambo will be like this. Pam pim pim pam pim pum pi dam tu pum pum pam 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 pam. And from here they go a little bit more like this. And then in New York around the 50s they were doing mambo like this too. Pam pim pim pam contratiempo, not on two. Boom, this is coming from Lindy Hop, from swing. Pam pam It's Lindy Hop. They were just adding more and more steps. This in Chufla is coming from rock and roll. It's coming from boogie woogie also, which is also one way to dance rock and roll and the evolution of rock and roll between with blues and soul and everything together. Yeah, and then around the 60s we have Boogaloo. Tum pum tum pum pum tum pum 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 pam 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 See? And then after this, with all this movement in the torso and this flow from the basic Boogaloo, like this, boom, 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 and this is coming from soul, room, chum, chum, ta, chum, chum. It's coming from gospel, bam, 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 bam. It's coming from mambo, boom, bam, bam, tutut, ra, ichikutut, ira, ichikutut. It's coming from cha cha cha, ra, ichikichichi, ira, ichikititi, ira, ichikititi, ira. And then the basic Boogaloo cha 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 will be like this, one and tutun, a basic Boogaloo, ikika, and then after this, around the 60s, people got more evolution in the salsa around the 70s. In Puerto Rico, after Palladium style, like this, can, this step is coming from Palladium, from the 50s in New York. A guy called Aníbal Vázquez used to do this step on his team. He's from Puerto Rico, he was from Puerto Rico, and he brought this basic, he brought this basic to Puerto Rico, and they were doing basic in Puerto Rico like this, shoulder, leg, shoulder, leg, and they were dancing salsa in partner. The basic was like this, king, They used to call salseros cocolos. Cocolos was the name of salseros around the 70s. Rockeros, salseros. Rockeros, cocolos. And this is the way that the cocolos used to dance salsa in partner like this. Pim, chaca, taca, taca, pim, chaca, taca, taca, pim, y va, y bim, 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 y va, y bim. That's the way that people used to dance salsa around the 70s in Puerto Rico. And also this basic, coming from Aníbal Vázquez, coming from Palladium, coming from Son Cubano, tutul, yeah? And then in New York, around the 70s and the 80s, Eddie Torres created one way to dance on two. Why? Because white people used to dance a tiempo, on time. 1, 3, 5, 7. And black people used to dance contratiempo. It was weird, but it was like that since Cuba. So that's the reason, because one guy was dancing on one and then the other guy was dancing on two. And it was so hard and so complicated to match each other. That's why Eddie Torres created these ways to start stepping on one, and then right away to 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. It was just the entry. But they were dancing contratiempo even when Eddie Torres created on two. It was just to make it easier to start dancing on contratiempo like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and there's a video about that on YouTube. Eddie Torres counting and teaching with a guy playing the congas. It's a video from the 80s or no, from the 90s. A video from the 90s. Yeah, and you can see that video, you can watch the video, and you can tell that he was dancing on contratiempo that time. But also, by the time, they were evolving and they were creating this way to dance on two. 1, 2, 3. Because they were counting 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and 5, and 6, and 7. Then the dance evolved, and also the music evolved too. Yeah? And they create this kind of footwork. So in step 1 and 3 with the mambo to the right and Boogaloo, taka taka taka, diagonal, and stop. And everything is coming from Son Cubano, like this. With the ronde jam. And mambo from Cuba. Mambo from Cuba. Ronde jam and so basic Son Cubano. Tugutun, tugubum, and then Boogaloo. Ting, taka, tugu, Boogaloo with the swing step. Boom, bam, and then Palladium step, going forward, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, with this evolution in the arms, arms, And also, Cocolo, the way to dance plen in Puerto Rico was like this. Because it's coming from Africa. It's coming from Africa. When these African rhythms mix with Indian rhythms in Puerto Rico, they create bomba and plena. So same movement in the arms, and they create this intention in New York. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. It makes sense, evolution? Yeah, and then the diagonal, 1, 3. So everything together, we have son cubano with the rondillan, we have mambo from Cuba, then we have bugalú, and then we have this thing from the Palladium, and cocolo, and everything. It's like this, 1, 2, mambo, 4 and 5, bugalú, boom, bam, 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 boom, bam, bam, boom, parabam, boom, bam, bam, parabam, boom, bam, bam, yes? So for you guys, that some of you guys are starting, some of you guys have already a lot of time learning salsa, try to go back to the roots. Try to learn about especially Afro-Cuban rhythms, because Afro-Cuban rhythms is the mother of everything. Once we understand the big and huge Afro-Cuban culture, we understand a lot of what we do. It doesn't have to be separate. It's together, because it's coming from the same place, from the same root, and it was evolving by the time. But because people, they stopped having information about where everything was coming from, they stopped knowing where everything was coming from. So that's why from Mambo community for many years it's like no, don't do Afro-Cuban in the Mambo. And from the other side it was like no, don't do Mambo in the casino. But it doesn't have to be like that. It could be together, okay? So let's try to keep learning more about the foundations instead of just focusing on footwear and pioneer if we don't have the foundations. Yeah? Let's record now. Face it. It's a basic with the facing forward. 5, 6, 7, tutun, and 2 and 3 and tutun, and 6 and 7, tutun, and 2 and 3 and 4, and 6 and 7, and 2 and 3 and 4, and 6 and 7, and 2 and 3 and 4, and 6 and 7, and 2 and 3 and 4, and 6 and 7, and 2 and 3 and 4, and 6 and 7, We can do the same in 1, 1 and 3 and 5, 6, 7 and 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 1 and 3 and 5, 6, 7. We can do the same on 2E. 1 and 3 and 5, 6, 7 and 1 and 3 and 5, 6, 7 and 1, 2, 3 and 5, 6, 7 and 1 and 3 and 5, 6, 7 and 1, 2, 3 and 5, 6, 7 and 1 and 3 and 5, 6 and 7. Yes? Music? Quickly with music. Acá está, se movió un poquito.